Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to a video on the channel. What we have for you today is our early transfer thoughts and wildcard team going into game week 5. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated, especially as we try and close in on 100 subscribers, which would be a fantastic milestone for the channel. Reasons to use your wildcard in an international break can include that it gives you twice as long than a normal game week to try and make changes for your team. Sometimes you're short on time during a normal game week, and having that extra week to just look at transfers and look at data, maybe watch some YouTube videos, can prove to be really helpful. It also gives players a chance to come back from injury and maybe just gives them a bit more time to get the fitness and get themselves back into the team. So, with that in mind, let's talk about our wildcard team. And in goal, I've gone with Turner and Ariola. So, for me, there's not many clean sheets going on in the Premier League right now. Only 2 out of 20 teams in game week 4 kept a clean sheet. So, with that in mind and the low ceiling for keepers, you might as well go cheap. Ariola has some tough fixtures coming up, apart from Sheffield United in game week 7. But Turner can cover for the meantime till game week 10, as he has Burnley, Palace, and Luton in the space between those dates. In defence, I've started with Gusto. So for me, I know he's the cheapest Chelsea defender, and that's one of the main reasons you're getting him in. He might have a small playing window with James possibly coming back soon. But for me, James is going to be managed with his minutes, and he may even get injured again. He seems really unfortunate with that. So I think having Gusto knocking around your team for a low price also a low risk, and he's someone that can come in and out as you see fit, and he might just keep getting minutes as well if he keeps playing as well as he has done. I've gone with Dan Burn as my second defender. I'd go with Botman if he's fit, and like we said, having that extra week, he might just be back in time for game week 5. If not, I'd go with Dan Burn because for me, a Newcastle defender is still worth getting in. I know they've had a bit of a rocky start, but the fixtures do turn from game week 5, game week 6, and both those Newcastle options are certain of minutes. Both of them have played as much minutes as possible minus injury so far this season, and 4.5 million represents a low risk. My final starting defender is Udogi. Now, he is great value, he looks nailed, and he passes the eye test with his attacking play. I think if you're going to go for Spurs defenders, you've not missed out just yet because although they've got Liverpool and Arsenal in the next three, the fixtures after that look so good, and they are also playing well in the league. My first defender coming off the bench would be Matt Cash. Now, he's been up and down with 17 points in one week and -1 in another week. I would just, rely on him to be a bit more consistent than he has been. He's not going to score 17 points every game week, and he's not going to score -1 most weeks as well. He was really unlucky with that own goal. I do think he's one of the better Villa options in defence because he does get into a lot of attacking positions. He still had chances in the most recent game week, and Villa's fixtures look great all the way until game week 15. My final player on the bench, as in my last option on the bench, I'm going to go with Kabore. Obviously, he's just in because he's the third bench option and he is only 4 million. But I think if you were ever going to have a Luton player in your team, the time is now. They have Fulham, Wolves, Everton, and Forest in the next five. And although you might not rely on him, I think it's worth considering his good fixtures compared to maybe some players in your teams that you either want to get rid of and you don't want to take a points hit, or you kind of want to give him a bit more time to come back from injury. I don't really see the problem in having him come in and hoping he gets 2 points. And there might be a chance of a clean sheet in there. I mean, look at your team from the last few game weeks. How many players in your teams have got 1 or 2 points? Probably quite a few. So I wouldn't necessarily, turn my nose up at getting a player in, even if it's just as like a, fill in the gap for one game week. Into midfield, and I'm going to start with Saka. 3 returns in 4 games is pretty solid, especially as they've, come in 3 separate matches. And to me, that shows, consistency and a steady stream of points. Fixtures could be a bit mixed coming up, but I think they're still good enough to have an Arsenal player in your team. And for me, Saka is as nailed on as they get. My second midfielder is Mbuemo. I don't see a reason not to have him in. He plays 90 minutes every game so far. He's got 4 goals in 4 games, so he is on form. And he's a forward registered as a midfielder, which means he gets that extra point for a goal. And he's in the in the window for a clean sheet point as well if Brentford do that. He's got good fixtures, and 6.8 mil is still a bargain. And there might be some people out there that look at players with price rises and think, "Ah, if only I'd got them in like a few weeks ago when they were cheaper." I wouldn't really look at that at all in a positive or a negative way if you've had them in for a while. I would look at it as, I maybe want Mbuemo in. If he was 6.8 mil at the start of the season, would you get him in? Knowing what you know now. And you would, he'd still be good value. So I think just because he's gone up in price, 6.8 million is still a bargain for a player like that. I've gone with Madison here as my third midfielder. Again, 4 returns in 4 games. And I don't think you've missed the boat with fixtures for Spurs. I think they're playing well anyway, which kind of nullifies any difficult fixtures coming up if a team and certain players are in form. I think for me, I'd look at players that are maybe performing more consistently. So players that are possibly getting 1 goal or 1 assist per game week. I think that just gives you teams good balance. He's in ahead of Sterling for that reason in my wildcard team because Sterling's got, I think 2 goals and 1 assist, but they all came in the same game week. And players that are, more likely to give you a high explosive number of points like that can also kind of you feel like they're letting your team down in other game weeks. If you have players that are scoring consistently, even if they don't return 1 game week, the other players on your team you should be able to rely on. So for me, Madison remains a great pick. My final midfield starting slot goes to Salah. Now, I know there's a chance that he might move abroad, but at time of recording, he's still a Liverpool player. I think that's the good thing about using your wild card at this time of the season when the transfer window's still open in other countries, because it does give you that flexibility just to play about with your team. And if somebody does move, or let's say someone gets injured over the international break, you can quite easily just rotate them out, redistribute the funds if needs be. He's also someone that's scoring consistently and playing a lot of minutes as well. Liverpool also look like they're in form, and the fixtures look pretty good. My final midfield slot goes to Nakamba, and it's a bit like Kabore here. He's a player that if you need to and you don't want to make a transfer, could come in and give you 2 points. I think he's played 90 minutes in every game so far this season. And Luton are going to, hopefully score goals, hopefully get wins at some point. You'd hope for their fans that that would be the case. And I think if that is going to happen, now would probably be the time. So I don't really see a problem in having, two cheap players at the bottom of your bench from the same team. They're cheap because the team's maybe not expected to do as well, but they are reasonable options and they are playing in the matches, which is, at the very least, that's what you want your bench players to do. Up front, we've absolutely going with Haaland. I think sometimes people can overthink it and, maybe not have Haaland in your team, but not captain him. I think if you're going to captain somebody else, yeah, they might outscore him in the odd game week, but I'm pretty sure that'll only be by 1 or 2 points. And the risk you run by not having him in your team, certainly, but also not by captaining him, is that let's say this game week that's just gone, he scored 3 goals and an assist. If you didn't captain Haaland, you could be 20 points behind everybody else that did, which would be a large number of managers. I just think at this early stage of the season, it's better just to play it safe with captaincy when there's someone so obvious and just get him in your team. He's even gone up in price because people have got him in the team since the opening day of the season. And, you can't blame them. My second striker is Ollie Watkins. Now, I think he's worth getting in still for the fixtures coming up for Villa. I still go for Villa. I think he's easy to downgrade. There's not really anyone more expensive than him other than Haaland, I think, in the attacking slots. So if you don't like him or he gets injured, he doesn't play well, you can literally go for any other attacking option in Fantasy League. He's been involved in 3 assists so far. He's yet to score, but I would put him at like a 15, 20 goal a season striker. And I think he's still on for that. And if that's the case, he's going to start scoring goals in the next few game weeks when the fixtures get better. My final striker is Alvarez. Now, he's actually played more minutes than Haaland this season. He's started every game, and he's someone that not only has the potential for high attacking returns in a game week, he also consistently ticks over as well. That price at 6.7 million, again, it's a bit like Madison and Mbuemo, where you would think, oh, if only I got him in when he was a bit cheaper. 6.7 million is still a lot more cheaper than many Man City assets. And if he's as nailed on as he appears to be for the rest of the season, he could be one of the bargains of the year. So my team rating on Fantasy Football Hub for this squad is 96%. Now it might not be as high as other ratings for this particular game week, but I think you kind of sacrifice, the immediate short term perhaps for long term gain. Like if you're using your wild card now, you are going to have less flexibility, obviously, for the rest of the season until that second wild card comes out. So you're going to have to be picking players that you're going to be happy with for the medium to long term. And it's like we said with Villa, game week 15, that's a long time to have Villa players for, but the fixtures do look manageable up until that point. We've also got a team value of 99.1 million, which I think is pretty good. It gives you obviously just under a million to just upgrade your team if you see fit. And the strengths for me, it has good medium term fixtures. And like we said, consistent points. You've got players that are scoring or assisting in most games. And that is so valuable just to have a more consistent rank. You're less likely to go down by a lot of places if you've got players that are covering for each other by usually getting goals and assists. Although I do think the weaknesses, it's pretty clear that the bench isn't as strong as it could be. A large factor of that is having, more Salah in there as a second premium option. I do think Salah is maybe worth it. I know there's a lot of other value you can have elsewhere, especially in midfield. But for me, I think once this transfer window shuts in Saudi Arabia, I think Salah can really concentrate on his football, and Liverpool's fixtures lend themselves to a player like him. I also question the potential for clean sheets. So I think the starting three defenders have kept three clean sheets between them in a total of 12 games to start the season. That's not great, but as we said at the start of the video, clean sheets are hard to come by, and we've gone for some more attacking players that can maybe get you those attacking returns when the clean sheets are lacking. I also think it's a bit, like the keepers. If there's not many clean sheets, you might as well go for good value players in defence and then invest the funds elsewhere in the team, like we've done here. So let me know what you think about my team. Are there any players that I've missed? Do you agree, disagree? Are there any players that you think shouldn't be in there? Please do like and subscribe. Like we said, it's super cool to be close to 100 subscribers. So if you can help with that, that would be fantastic. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.